Every year, over 20 million Canadians cross into the United States, not for immigration, not for business, just to visit, to shop, to escape the cold, to live like locals for a few sunny months. It's a quiet relationship until it isn't, because in 2025, Canadian travel to the U.S. is shrinking. Not all at once, not loudly, but just enough to shake the foundation in 6 specific states that rely on these visitors more than oil, more than tech, more than domestic tourism. And the twist, one of them isn't even close to the border. This isn't a trend, it's a slow withdrawal. And the economic impact? Already unfolding. Stick around, because the most surprising part isn't how many Canadians used to come. It's what happens when they stop. Why Canada matters more than you think. When we talk about international tourism in the U.S., we usually think big: China, the U.K., maybe Japan. But here's the truth. Canada is the #1 source of international visitors to the United States. Always has been. Still is. Before 2020, over 20 million Canadians came south each year. That's more than the populations of New York City and Los Angeles combined. And this isn't just fly in, fly out vacation traffic. We're talking about something deeper. Snowbirds, mostly retirees, spend 3 to 6 months a year in places like Florida, Arizona, and Texas. They rent condos, they buy property, they shop, dine, use healthcare services, hire help, and pay local taxes. Others come for weekend shopping, cross-border events, lake cabin getaways, or even medical care they can't get fast enough at home. In border towns like Buffalo, Sault Ste. Marie, or Bellingham, the local economy depends on those visits like clockwork. Thousands of businesses rely on predictable Canadian foot traffic. Hotels time their rates around long weekends in Ontario. Retail stores switch signage to French. Even gas stations adjust supply based on Quebec school breaks. This isn't just tourism, it's infrastructure. A system built on quiet, reliable movement across a friendly border. And the more invisible it is, the more damage it causes when it disappears. What's changed recently? So if this Canada-US travel relationship was so stable, what changed? First, border policy. Since 2020, new rules have quietly made things harder for Canadians. Longer questioning, surprise phone searches. And now, in 2025, a new 30-day rule means Canadians staying more than a month need to register with U.S. immigration. Snowbirds, many of them retirees, say they feel less welcome, less trusted, more like monitored guests than friendly neighbors. Then there's the economy. The Canadian dollar is weak, sitting around 74 cents U.S. That means every dollar spent in America feels like $1.30 back home. A simple grocery run across the border now feels like luxury shopping. Add in rising flight costs, expensive U.S. insurance requirements, and border wait times, and the hassle just isn't worth the reward anymore. And finally, perception. A growing number of Canadians, especially younger ones, are shifting their travel habits. Why go to Miami when Portugal is cheaper? Why deal with customs when Mexico gives you 6 months with no questions asked? The U.S. we once seen as familiar and fun is increasingly viewed as unpredictable, expensive, or even politically tense. A 2024 survey by Abacus Data showed that only 48% of Canadians feel very comfortable traveling to the U.S., down from 67% just 5 years ago. The trend is slow, but real. And for the 6 states we're about to explore, it's already showing up in the numbers. Let's get specific. These 6 U.S. states aren't just affected by declining Canadian tourism, they're propped up by it. And when Canadians stay home, these states feel it first and hardest. Number 1, Florida, when the snowbirds don't come. Let's start with the most obvious and the most vulnerable. Florida. It's not just beaches and spring breakers. It's home to over 3.5 million Canadian visitors every year. But Canadians don't just visit Florida. They live here for months. They own winter condos in Sarasota and Fort Myers. They drive RVs to warm parks in the Panhandle. They line up for early bird dinners and fill the chairs in seasonal clinics. But in 2025, something's changed. The Canadian Snowbird Association reported a 22% decline in long-term winter stays this year. That's the steepest drop in a decade. Why? Tougher visa rules, rising U.S. insurance costs, weak Canadian dollar, and most importantly, a shift in how welcome they feel. It's not just missed bookings, it's real economic pain. In Broward County alone, local businesses are estimating a $128 million shortfall in snowbird-driven revenue compared to 2019. One Clearwater Cafe owner said, "We used to hire extra staff in November for the Canadian wave. This year, we didn't even fill the schedule." Number 2, New York, Niagara's disappearing neighbors. Next up, New York. And no, not Times Square. We're talking Western New York, the Niagara region, where the American side of the falls depends on Canadians to keep it flowing. Economically, Ontarians used to cross into Buffalo for 3 reasons: shopping, entertainment, and cheaper everything. They filled hotels on weekends. They raided outlet malls. They flew from Buffalo's airport to save on flights. But now, border traffic is down. According to CBP and StatsCan, car crossings at the Rainbow Bridge dropped by 28% since 2023. In 2025, hotel chains in Niagara County are reporting weekday vacancy rates nearing 60%, numbers not seen since the lockdowns. Even the Buffalo Bills, yes, the NFL team, are seeing lower ticket sales to Canadians. The tailgate crowds are noticeably quieter. For towns like Niagara Falls, Lewiston, and Buffalo, this isn't just a travel slowdown, it's a disappearing customer base. And here's the punch. Some Canadian visitors say the border isn't worth the hassle anymore. Too much questioning, too much unpredictability. So they're skipping it. And the result? Local businesses are cutting staff. Tour buses are downsizing routes, and one rental car agency at the Buffalo airport shut down a terminal entirely. Number 3, Michigan, a border built for business. Slowing down. Michigan doesn't just border Canada, it's interwoven with it. The Detroit-Windsor Tunnel is one of the busiest crossings in North America. Canadians come for fuel, pharmacy runs, restaurants, and Red Wings games. But those habits are fading. In 2019, over 9.6 million personal vehicles crossed into Michigan from Ontario. In 2025, just 6.7 million. That's a drop of over 30%. And it's not just Detroit. In Port Huron, border shop owners report a 40% drop in Canadian traffic year-round. In Sault Ste. Marie, some motels are seeing their lowest booking rates since 2008. Border casinos are hurting. Gas stations are operating at a loss in winter. And according to Michigan's tourism board, the state has lost $185 million in Canadian spending since 2020. One shop owner said it best. It's like someone turned off the tap, and we weren't ready for a drought. Number 4, Arizona, deserted in the desert. You wouldn't think Canadians would flock to the desert, but they do, or at least they did. In Arizona, the winter season means Canadians in RV parks, on golf courses, in clinics, and rental homes. They come for sunshine, open space, and escape from the frozen north. In 2020, over 400,000 Canadians stayed in Arizona for winter. In 2025, it's under 260,000, a 35% drop. Why? The 30-day rule spooked long-stayers. Medical tourists no longer feel protected. Some say the tone at the border feels tense. Clinics in Phoenix and Mesa that once catered to Canadians for elective surgeries are reporting 40% appointment cancellation rates this year. Entire RV parks in Tucson are running half full. Airbnbs have pivoted their listings to domestic travelers. And still, bookings are down. As one Canadian blogger wrote, "I used to call Arizona my second home. Now it feels like somewhere I'm no longer invited." Number 5, Washington. The shopping cart is empty. Washington shares its northern edge with British Columbia, and for decades that meant business. Vancouver families drove south for groceries, gas, Costco runs, and concerts. It was part of life. But in 2025, it's fading. Bellingham International Airport reports a 19% drop in Canadian travelers. Retail anchors and border malls have closed locations, and small towns like Blaine are seeing sales tax revenue fall by 11%. Some stores are literally putting signs in the windows that say, "We miss our Canadian friends." The grocery chain Trader Joe's closed a location once nicknamed the Vancouver store because 90% of customers were from Canada. This isn't political, it's practical, and the absence is loud. Number 6, Vermont. When Quebec quietly stays home. Vermont isn't just a postcard, it's a tourism machine, fueled by Quebecois travelers. They come for skiing, cabin getaways, maple syrup tours, cozy B&Bs with bilingual staff. But since 2019, Quebec traffic at border points like Darby Line and Highgate Springs has dropped over 33%. One Stowe innkeeper said, "Thanksgiving used to be packed. Now we're giving discounts just to fill the beds." Gift shops are closing early. Seasonal tour guides are taking other jobs. Even the maple syrup farms, a staple attraction, are scaling back tours. For a state like Vermont, where small towns survive on tourism margins, this isn't just a hit, it's a slow bleed. And no one's sure when or if the flow will return. When people hear tourism decline, they picture a few empty hotels, maybe a quieter beach. But what we're seeing here is something deeper, more permanent. Thousands of small businesses, cafes, repair shops, boutiques, private clinics, depend on Canadian traffic. Not big spenders, just reliable ones. Every week, every season, every year. They're the kind of customer who comes in, doesn't haggle, tips well, and tells their friends back home. And now, they're quietly gone. One ski town sees 30% fewer lift passes. One border diner cuts back from 7 days to 4. A nurse in Arizona loses her winter hours. A bookstore in Vermont cancels its French-speaking book club. This isn't a crash, it's a slow leak. And it's invisible until something breaks. The danger isn't just that Canadians aren't coming, it's that no one noticed they left. When you think of international influence, you probably picture China, Europe, big players. But for 6 U.S. states, the most powerful foreign presence was never loud. It was quiet, polite, seasonal. It was Canada. And now that it's fading, the silence is starting to echo. Have you noticed fewer Canadians in your town? Fewer accents, fewer license plates, fewer familiar faces? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because sometimes it's the quietest neighbors that leave the biggest hole when they're gone. And if this made you see your state differently, tap like, subscribe, and share it with someone who still thinks border politics don't matter.